Well, let's go to Ramallah now, speak to a political analyst, Nour Odeh. Nour, I was just wondering, as Mohammed was saying there, yes, it's symbolic. Is it anything more than that, though? Can it really bring about practical change?
I think it's a lot more than symbolic. This is a political and legal commitment by these states to recognize Palestine within the internationally accepted borders, to recognize Palestinian sovereignty over that land, and to reject and not deal with any Israeli changes to those. So that includes settlements, that includes companies that profiteer from Palestinian resources within the occupied territory, and so much more. Like I said, it's a legal commitment that can be built on, and many more actions can be taken. And I would imagine would those countries would be pushed to take in light of that recognition, which will be followed by others. It won't stop the war. That is understood, but it does create a different kind of momentum, a different kind of conversation, particularly among Western countries that have been reluctant to distance themselves from the American approach to this, which has kept Palestinians and the region hostage to the Israeli agenda of permanent occupation.
The EU is Israel's biggest trade partner, and it's potentially talking about trade sanctions now, but it is, and I stress the word is potentially talking about trade sanctions. How likely do you think that is that they could happen?
I'm a bit skeptical. I don't think that the EU can reach consensus on that, given the membership composition and the position of certain countries. But I do think that a lot of EU members are, moving to a place where they feel they have no other option but to be, consistent with their own laws and with EU laws and standards, and to apply sanctions. It's also about consistency. It's also about these countries not wanting to appear like hypocrites and having double standards. Europe is in the middle of a confrontation on European soil with a very large country, with Russia, and they want international assistance and they want international support based on international law. Right? They say that this is about rejecting occupation and annexation. Well, you can't make that argument and still cover up Israeli annexation and occupation. So I think in many ways we will see countries trying to remain consistent in order for their positions on issues that are much closer to their home to become more relevant and to have more integrity.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever see a day where the US recognises the state of Palestine?
Eventually, I think that is a historical inevitability. But I think that just like with apartheid South Africa, unfortunately, the United States will be one of the last countries standing. We saw that with the fall of apartheid. It was the US, the UK, and Israel who stood by apartheid until the very last breath of that racist regime. And I am not sure that it would be different with the Israeli occupation, given internal and domestic US politics and the fact that it doesn't seem like the Biden White House is listening to its own base. So we'll have to wait and see, but ultimately they'll get there.
Yeah, so you think Israel may listen at some point in the future? Because at the moment it's not even bothered about the International Court of Justice.
Well, I think Israel up until now has been treated like a spoiled brat, right? It has a sense of entitlement. It feels like it should have the last say on Palestinian destiny and Palestinian rights. And it is now being told by the vast, absolute majority of states that that is not something that they should have a say for, a say over. With the ICJ pursuing Israel for the crime of genocide, with the ICC potentially issuing arrest warrants for the current Israeli prime minister and defense minister. The space in which Israel can be comfortable while still being a colonizer and an oppressor is shrinking. And so I think ultimately we're moving towards a situation where Israel has to choose between the two, either be a rogue colonizer that has lesser and fewer friends, or be a state among nations and subjected to the same laws and standards. It is still a long road ahead. And unfortunately, Palestinian civilians will pay the heaviest price for that. but I do think that the momentum is going in the right direction.
Thank you, Nour. Appreciate that. Political analyst in Ramallah, Nour Odeh. Thank you.